I'm excited to have you here as we dive into effective ways to build and grow your professional network. Whether you're exploring a new industry or looking to advance in your current field, today's session will provide you with practical tips to help you make meaningful connections and open new doors in your career. We are currently recording this webinar to ensure accessibility for all participants. You can also enable closed captioning via your browser. We recommend using Google Chrome, where you can click on the three dots in the upper right-hand corner, click on Settings, and then Accessibility. You may refer to the screenshot in the presentation, reference a breakdown of instructions on how to access closed captioning on different browsers in the content section to the right, or you can reach out to one of our CareerCircle employees in the tech support booth in the lobby to assist you. All of the resources that we discussed today and more can be located on the Content tab near the People and Discussion feed to your right. All resources and the recording will be emailed to you after the event. I repeat, all resources and the email and the recording will be emailed to you after the event. So please make sure to watch until the end, as our amazing panelist has a wealth of knowledge to share. Before we get started with introductions, here's a QR code for our survey. You can open it on your phone and share your feedback with us. We'll be doing a raffle with all respondents, and one of you will win a CareerCircle tote bag. The winner will be contacted next Friday, which would be December the 19th, 18th? If you miss it, no worries. We'll send a survey in our post-survey email. But if you want to give us your thoughts during the event, we'd love to hear from you. Now, with that being said, my name is Brittany Knowles. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm currently the Learning and Development Specialist at CareerCircle. I have twisted hair. I have on clear wide brim cat eye glasses. I'm wearing pink lipstick to show my enthusiasm, as well as a white t-shirt. Okay, I'm sitting in my home office as we speak. Now, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, Stephanie.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Leone, and my pronouns are she and her. I currently work at CareerCircle as a career coach advisor. My hair color is blonde. My eyes are blue. I'm wearing a black and blue blouse, and I'm located in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, in my home office.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. So we're super excited to start this conversation. Let's begin by outlining what networking is and why it matters for your job search. It's all yours, Stephanie.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Brittany. So thank you everyone for attending today. I'm going to first get started by giving you a little bit of background about myself, and then we'll get started on talking about our resume tips and guidance to get you supported. So my background is primarily in higher education. So I worked at a 4-year private university where I was a director of career services. I worked with undergraduate students, graduate, adult program students, working to place those individuals into job opportunities and, of course, develop them professionally along the way. I transitioned over into working in workforce development, working at CompTIA for almost 4 years, working in a similar capacity, developing individuals professionally who were seeking to get into the tech industry, attaining certifications, upskilling within the tech industry, also career transitioners, those going from one industry to the next. And then I joined CareerCircle a little bit earlier this year as a career coach advisor, working in a similar capacity. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started with the agenda. So we're going to talk about formatting your resume, which is obviously super important. The number one thing you want to make sure is that your resume is formatted properly. The structure is nice and clean. Our ultimate goal is obviously if you're a member within CareerCircle, we'll be submitting your resume over to recruiters, and we want to make sure that it looks excellent. And then if you're applying to roles underneath the CareerCircle's job board, same thing. You want to make sure it looks great. And then if you're applying to positions outside of our platform, you want to make sure your resume looks what we call Applicant Tracking System friendly, ATS friendly. So we're going to talk more on that. We're going to talk about maximizing your job search by using AI. So we all know AI is the hot topic these days, and there's so many different resources and sites that are available to you. And those are wonderful resources. They can help you present yourself in a very professional manner. But at the same time, we want to also be conscientious and cautious of the way we are using those resources, and also not just using whatever it spits out. We have to go in, make sure we edit it, and make it our own. And then at the end, if we have time for question and answers, we will do that as well. So formatting your resume. We'll start with the resume guidelines. We do have a resume template. If you're a member of CareerCircle, you have access to it underneath the content tab, I believe. It will also be emailed out to you at the end of the presentation. So you'll have that template. It has been designed to be ATS friendly. If I meet with you as a career coach and your resume looks wonderful already, we may not even need that, but it is a resume template that's available to you. But the topics that you want to make sure, these are the main items within that resume you want to highlight and make sure we're presenting ourselves very professionally. The professional experience, the education, and also the skills. So there's so many different aspects that we can go into talking about these areas. But when we're talking about the professional experience, that's everything within your work history. And you want to make sure you're including that in what we call reverse chronological order on your resume, with the most recent experience at the top. So meaning your current position. And then we want to go down in that order. We also want to, of course, discuss the education section. Within education, any degrees, any training programs, any certifications that you might have received. You want to make sure you're including those. You could split up the education section with just your bachelor's degree, master's degree if you have that. And then if you've been in training programs, certification programs, same thing. You can pull that aside and have a separate section for that. In the resume template, there is sections in there. And it's designed as a template, so you can certainly switch things up and move them around in that template as well. And then we're going to talk more about skills here within the slide deck. We're going to talk about soft skills. We're going to talk about hard skills and how both of those skills are definitely imperative to the workplace, and they're transferable, right? So even if you've worked a retail job or if you've worked in a restaurant industry job, those skills that you've learned, those can be transferable over into, say, the tech industry, cybersecurity, tech support space, digital marketing. I know we get a lot of individuals that are also interested in that area as well. The 2-page resumes are okay. So this is something back in the old days, you might have heard 1-page resume, 1-page resume only. That's not something that as a career coach, I necessarily stick to, especially if you have that 10 plus years of experience. It really comes down to making sure we're displaying any relevant work history and experience that we have on that resume, if it is important to the position that you're applying to. And so we don't want to omit, we don't want to leave experience off if it's something that's definitely going to position you in a better spot to be a viable candidate for the position that you're applying to. So it's really kind of based off of each individual that I meet with, whether or not we want to go past the 10 years a little bit, how long that resume needs to be. That's something one-on-one I'm happy to discuss with you if you haven't had a one-on-one yet. Professional email address. So we want to make sure whatever email address we're utilizing is professional. meaning we don't want to put something like blondeskatergirl@hotmail.com. We want to have a first name, a last name. Sometimes you might need to implement a digit in there as well to separate yourself, because if you have a super common name, you might not be able to just use your first last name. So think about what you would like to use if you don't already have a professional email address. One thing I'll highlight is I recently met with a candidate who was using an email address that they use only for their job search. And I think the email address was something to the effect of jobsearch2025@gmail.com. We don't want to do that because we're showing, obviously we're, conducting this massive job search using an email only for that purpose. We want to stick to a very professional email address. Punctuation and grammar, with all of the resources that we have available to us these days, we really shouldn't have an issue with the punctuation and grammar, but we still do. So make sure you're proofing, you're using any resources available to you. Of course, if you're in a Word document, it's going to highlight and give you those grammar issues, but sometimes you might not be able to catch all of them. So have someone else look over your resume as you're working on it, designing it. Also use AI tools. We'll talk more about that here shortly to support you in that. Experience section in reverse chronological order, as I mentioned earlier, with your most recent experience at the top. So your current position, and then go down in that order. And also make sure you're listing at least the month and the year that you started the position, and the month and the year that you ended the position. Those are the basics when it comes to listing out any work history and experience on the resume. And again, if it's a current position or present, you can list it as such. And then do not add any personal information. We don't want to get too personal on the resume. The purpose of it is to remain professional. When you get into an interview with a recruiter and hiring manager, you're more than welcome to open up that conversation. Usually it starts with some soft entry, getting to know you type of conversation. And that, sometimes gives you that ability to open up and get a little more personable with someone else and connect on another level. And then, did you know, so on average, recruiters take about 7.4 seconds to look at your resume, and then they're on to the next one. So please, as you're developing your resume, working on it, take these items here in mind. Soft skills versus the hard skills. So soft skills, these skills are going to be more interpersonal type of skills. They're personal, they're very nuanced to each individual, but they are definitely essential for career success. But they are definitely harder to measure, right? Because we each develop our own soft skills in life along the way. And because of the experiences that we've gone through and the people that have been around us and how we've honed those skills, they're not going to be the same for every single individual. These skills are what we use to problem solve, ability to analyze situations, and also work towards providing solutions. And then these skills also show leadership. So they help us in guiding and motivating a team or individuals toward common goals. What I will say about soft skills and the experience I have as a career coach is that many times recruiters, hiring managers, they want to see somebody who's been able to develop soft skills, sometimes even more so than hard skills, because they can teach you the hard skills. The soft skills, if you have those, if you're empathetic, you're a problem solver, willing to learn, take a step back, to listen to other people. These are all skills that are very difficult to teach someone. But if you already have those skills, from there, they believe that they can teach you what we call the hard skills. So the hard skills, these are very detailed, very specific skills. They're teachable abilities. They can be measured. They can definitely be quantified. We usually pick these skills up along the way, technical type of skills in life, also in various types of job roles that we've been in. They're very job specific, hard skills are, and they definitely require more technical proficiency than the soft skills. And so talking about what hard skills are, for example, coding. So if you're someone in here who's into coding, then you've learned to develop those hard skills. These are proficiency in programming languages, Python or Java. These are not skills that just everyone out there has, right? Like you've gone to specific training programs, you've taken degree programs, and you've learned these hard skills. There's data analytics, of course. So if you're somebody here who, you're interested in a data analytics role, you've taken some sort of training program, whether it's a degree program, whether it's a Google certification program, whatever it might be. These skills help you analyze and interpret data using tools like Excel or Python. So again, very specific skills. And when we're talking about the resume, we want to be able to build in a combination of our soft skills and our hard skills, okay? You can also build those in on your LinkedIn profile under your skills section. I definitely encourage you to take time to build them out and then cross-reference those onto your resume. It just kind of keeps everything in sync. And when recruiters are looking at your profile and they're looking at your resume, they're able to see, that you're staying consistent with the skills across the board. AI tool prompt. So if you're using any sort of AI tool out there, ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, whatever it might be, provide a list of, you can ask it to provide a list of my top 10 skills for my targeted discipline based off of what your resume is. So if you don't have a ton of skills, already on your resume, you can pop it in there and then ask it to provide you with the top skills based off of your work history and what your experience is. And it's probably going to shoot out a ton and even more than you probably would need. But you want to make sure, obviously, you go through each of those skills and make sure that you have the necessary experience, and that if you're reflecting those on your resume, that it is showing is accurate, right? So just to show, AI tools are wonderful, but at the same time, you want to make sure that it's actually in alignment with what your experience is so far. So what to include in your resume. So this is just an example of a resume, and you can see the summary up at the top here. If you look at the summary, I get questions all the time, what should I put in the summary of my resume? Or if you have an objective at the top of your resume, what I typically say is if you're someone who you're new to the workplace environment and you haven't had a ton of experience yet, you might want to consider using what we call an objective. An objective clearly states what your goal is. Maybe you just completed a bachelor's degree program. Maybe you just completed a training program and you want to show that you've gotten that certification. But at the same time, you want to show a little bit about maybe a customer success role that you had in the past, customer service type of role. You can mention that and then tie it all together by mentioning what your goal is, right? So if, you've worked within data analytics as a data, like an analyst intern type of position, then you want to tie it together, mentioning that you're looking for an entry-level data analytic type of position at the end of that. But the example here basically is a summary. So someone who's had 7+ years of experience as a financial advisor, and then talking about how they've had proven success in managing multi-million-dollar projects and portfolios, and then talking more about how they've done that, and then further on moving into their professional experience, of course, and education relevant skills. This is just to serve as a primary example of listing your professional experience in reverse chronological order. Again, if you don't have much experience, that's okay too. We need to make sure we're still listing out everything on the resume. If you have volunteer experience, you also want to make sure that you're listing that. I've had some individuals who've not had much work history and actual paid experience, but they're showing their volunteer experience under their professional experience, and that's fine too. It just all depends upon each individual and the background that you have. So the who method, what you did, how you did it, and outcome, right? So when you're listing out the bullet notes on your resume, this is what I always talk about when I meet with individuals in a coaching session, is we want to know more than just what you do on a daily basis, right? So for example, if you work at Starbucks and you're a barista, we want to know more than you take orders, as people are coming through the drive-through, or you deliver the coffee to someone as they're standing at the counter. We want to know more about that. We want to know, okay, so how many customers did you serve on a daily basis or a weekly basis? And it's totally fine that you don't have an exact number. We need you to just estimate, right? So on estimating things, you might say, I served 50 to 100 customers in one day. So what does that show? Even though you're not interested in working as a barista at Starbucks, it shows that you can handle high volume. So you can handle 50 to 70 customers a day, and that's a lot. And not only are you handling 50 to 70 customers a day, you're also dealing with any kinds of issues that arise from the orders that they place, right? So you're showing on your resume that you have those transferable skills. That transfers over into another position, whether it's a technical support type of position, data analytic type of role, cybersecurity, whatever it might be. You're showing how one outcome from your prior experience can transition over to that. And I encourage you to think about how you did it and thinking about outcomes as you're, listing out those bullet notes on your resume, instead of more so, this is, what I do on a daily basis. How did I add value to the position that I was in? How did I add value to the company? That is what recruiters want to see. That is what hiring managers want to see when they look at your resume. If they see your job title, they probably already know that you were a banker. Okay, they know what you did in that position, but what they don't know is the value that you provided to that position. So describe, value, add, the results you delivered within the role. We just discussed that. Start every line with an action verb. So be mindful of that as you're building in those bullet notes. For example, the person here that worked at Wells Fargo, they deliver financial advice, develop, review, and optimize investment portfolios. So think in terms of those action words. And then you also want to make sure you're using the correct tense. So if it's a current position, using a present tense verb. If it's a past position, you're using a past tense verb, okay? So make sure you're looking at it that way as you're designing those bullet notes. Start every line with an action verb. Gives you some examples right there that you could potentially use. A minimum of 3 bullet notes per role. So ideally 5 to 6, but if you're someone here, you have a lot of work history and experience, you may want to make those a little bit more concise and stick with 3 versus the 5 to 6. If you've had a couple of positions, for example, there's 3 here on this example resume, yeah, stick to the 5 to 6 type of bullet notes. Don't be afraid to go to a second page. Once again, as long as we're including the relevant content material to the positions that we're submitting you for, or that you're applying for, ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what we want to see. We want to see what the content is, and that's the most important aspect when we're trying to show a recruiter or when you're applying to a position. That's what we need to see. Be consistent with the format, tense, and the punctuation, and don't be afraid to use AI to help you develop this content along the way. So resume format. When we're talking about the resume format, getting started, you have a header, right? So at the very top, you have your name, contact information. I have seen some resumes before where individuals don't include the phone number at the top, but we really want to include a phone number. I encourage you to have that on there. I understand we all get spam calls and no one wants to have to deal with annoying calls and those kinds of things. But if you're working with a CareerCircle career coach, a recruiter, your resume is essentially going into the hands of a recruiter. So we're not sending your resume out there and for mass amounts of people and for you to be getting those types of spam calls. So please make sure you have that on there. Email, of course, a professional email address. If you have a LinkedIn profile, you can certainly add that to the top of your resume, as well as any portfolios. I work with many people who have project work or conduct home labs, and so they have a separate website portfolio, and they want to make sure that they're displaying that work on the resume. So you can also include that in the header at the very top of the resume. In reference to the address, we no longer need our full address on the resume, but we do need to have at least minimal the city and the state at the top of the resume. So please keep that in mind. Your professional summary. So we talked a little bit about that before, but again, it's basically keywords that you would use to describe yourself, along with a brief description of your experience and the job title that you are targeting. And if you're struggling with that, please use AI to help you build out a professional summary. I typically say between 3 to 4, maybe 5 sentences for that professional summary. But we don't want to get too long with the professional summary. That's really just a way for you to show immediately, in a nutshell, who you are, your background, what you bring to the table, and what you're looking to do. Okay. And down there, it actually says, write a 3 to 4 sentence professional summary for my resume using strong action verbs with this text. Copy and paste your skills, professional experience, and education. So again, that will prompting AI to develop that for you. That will definitely help you get started. And then I encourage you, of course, to always reread what comes out of that. Have someone else read it as well. Make sure it actually reflects and shows your background experience and what you're looking to do. The skills summary. So this is typically built into the main text of the resume. So it can actually be located in a couple of different places. And sometimes based off of, if I'm meeting with someone, I'll direct them to place this within certain areas of the resume based off of the amount of experience that they have. But in reference to this, giving you the example, located between the header and the experience section, we have the skills. So including the technical skills, the soft skills, interpersonal skills, also any certifications. But there's another section for that. You can list it, in as well. Professional experience. So think in terms of action, task, results, as we discussed. That's probably the most simple way that we can define the bullet notes as we're developing those. So action, what and were you responsible for in the position that you were in? What were you tasked to complete? And then also what tools, what processes did you use, software, techniques, or skills did you do to complete the task? And if you're someone here who's looking to enter into the tech space, I encourage you to really think about the software programs that you've used, the equipment that you've used, even if it's not a position related to tech, but you still want to build that into the resume. You never know when you're submitting yourself for a position, you're applying to a position, when some sort of program or platform that you might have used might come up, and it could be a great thing. It could be something that maybe it's not utilized in that position, but that employer, that recruiter is familiar with it, and they can say, okay, so they may not have experience with XYZ that we're looking for, but they have used this platform, they have used this software, and so therefore it could be a transferable type of skill. Results, and then think in terms, I encourage you with any of the bullet notes that you're developing to think about a value and how you can show an outcome. Of course, we don't want to just make up percentages. We don't want to make up quantifying things or incorporating figures in there. We want to make sure, obviously, it flows well, and we want to make sure that it's accurately reflecting what our experience was in the position. Professional experience. These are some examples here. So for example, responsible for increasing sales. that's very vague, right? So that's great. You were responsible for it, but how much or how did you help increase those sales, for example? So developed a new sales strategy generating $4,700 in revenue, just to give you kind of like an idea of thinking along the lines of how did I add value? How can I show an outcome, and how can I elevate what I already have here? It's really all about elevating what you have. And then showing it all together. You can see over here to the side, we want to start with an action verb, cleaned and transformed, and then the task or project, a large data set for analysis, reducing data processing time by 30%, and improving overall data quality for subsequent analysis. So we're using a metric here. We're showing and identifying a result here, which is what we want to see. Okay. So think about that as you're building in those figures into what you already have on your resume, and how we want to show and reflect those outcomes. And what I also tell individuals that I work with is that if you seriously are kind of hung up on how you can build in data or show an outcome, use AI for that. Pop it in there, ask it to build in some outcomes and show how you added value. Be prepared for what's going to come out, because sometimes it may not have anything to do with the actual value that you provided in the position. But the main thing is it gets your mind working and gets things churning in the direction that we need to, because it gives you those ideas. Okay, this may not be exactly what I'm looking for, but it's getting my mindset on what I need to, to get it in that direction, basically. Sort of like an idea developer. So AI tool prompts. Disclaimer here, use these prompts separately for each job, because too much information can confuse the AI system. So prompt 1, rewrite my bullet notes to show measurable achievements using strong action verbs for my targeted disciplined resume. And then copy and paste your bullet notes from your current resume, one job at a time. So to really work on each bullet note, like it says, you can copy over one at a time in there and really just kind of refine and focus on one thing. That way you can build it all in together at the end. Prompt 2, write 3 to 6 bullet points using measurable achievements and strong action verbs for my job title. So another awesome way for you to build that content in. Best practices when using AI prompts. We've probably all here at some point used AI, and we've tried to prompt it a certain way and it did not go well. It may have just spit out some random content or has nothing to do with what we're actually needing at the time. So these are tips to help you. First, be specific in what you're asking the AI tool to do. So sometimes as much detail as possible will help you get a better response, and it will be a little more direct. Customizing the prompts. So customize whatever it is that you're putting in there instead of just one blanket statement overall. Make it unique, make it your own to help pull those results out. Using multiple prompts. And that's another thing. If you're not getting what you are trying to from the AI tool, then keep prompting, right? Keep having that conversation and trying to pull that data, that information out. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we always want to make sure, no matter what we're doing when we're utilizing AI tools, is edit and proofread. There are so many times where I can look at a resume, I can see that it was written by AI. And we want to make sure that even though it was written by AI, it still has some of human aspect to it, right? And it also, of course, is accurately reflecting what your experience is. And then use AI prompts as a supplement, not a replacement. I think that that's probably the key. The purpose of utilizing AI is to help us maximize and optimize what we already have in our resume. And it can certainly do that. but at the same time, we don't want to utilize it to replace us entirely. We still need to have that human side and human touch to our resume. Maximizing your job search potential with AI. So understand and analyze job descriptions. So that's super wonderful. If you've not taken a job description and copied and pasted it into AI to pull out keywords to analyze it a little deeper, I encourage you to do that. If you are working on your resume, for example, and you're trying to make sure that you've built in the necessary skills for a position, you really want to make sure that you're pulling those skills out of the job description. AI tools will help you do that. And then you can cross-reference those skills over into your resume. You can also cross-reference those skills over onto your LinkedIn profile. And if you're building out a cover letter for the position, you can use those skills to optimize the cover letter as well. So it really helps you build them in all aspects and really understand that job description. Optimizing your resume with keywords, as we were just talking about. So building in keywords, whether it's in the summary section. Think about when you're building out your bullet notes for your professional summary, if there are potential ways that you can build in keywords from a job description into those bullet notes. Even sometimes if it has nothing to do with the job that you worked, there can be a way to show those keywords. So if you're, for example, interested in a data analytics type of position, you've never worked in the field, but now you have the certification, and you're looking at a job description for an entry-level data analytic role, and you're looking at your resume and you're like, okay, I worked at Starbucks, I was a barista, or I was a manager, or I looked at data sets at one point, right? Or you looked at some sort of log where it had data on it, whatever it might be. You can utilize those words, data, analyze, entry, whatever it might be. You can use those in the job description or in the bullet notes in your resume, and they're also listed in the job description that you've pulled, right? So that means you're building in keywords. So when your resume is going through applicant tracking systems, you're still showing you have some type of experience that's relevant, okay? So think in terms of, how can I pull these keywords out? How can I really build those into my summary, into my professional work experience, into my skills section, anywhere really. We don't want to overdo it, but at the same time, we do want to do our best to show that we have that background. Tailor your resume for each job. This is very important, especially if you're applying externally from the CareerCircle platform and any submittals that are going over to recruiters, because again, your resume is going through those ATS platforms and you need to design and build in keywords. So you want to make sure that you're tailoring your resume for each job, and you might even have different versions of your resume, right? So you might have one that's, if you're interested in getting into tech support, for example, you might have a separate resume for that. If you're interested in getting into data analytics roles because you have that certification, but yet you don't have any experience in that area yet. Some people will actually go a different route, what we call transitional roles, and then come back to that once we get the necessary, at least experience, a little bit of experience under our belt. So you might have more than one resume. And CareerCircle, you can house more than one resume there. You do have the ability to upload more than one, but just keep in mind that one resume is used as the default resume. So you want to make sure when you're applying to positions, that is the resume that you have saved as the actual default. And then craft a compelling cover letter. So I get questions quite often, do I need to have a cover letter for a position? And it's a great question. You've probably seen articles about how the cover letter is getting canceled these days and such. But what I always say is that if you're applying to a position and it has a spot for you to upload a cover letter, then go ahead and write a nice cover letter out, and you want to include that with your application package. If they're still asking for a cover letter, chances are there's a reason for that. It also gives you a chance to highlight and talk more about yourself outside of just your resume. Sometimes looking at the resume as an entire document, it just shows our work history. It shows our experience, right? It doesn't really give you the ability to expound upon that experience or give more background about yourself. So that's what the cover letter is for, and gives you the ability sometimes to even talk more about your passion and your interest in that field. So it can actually help you if it's used in the right way. So if it's asking for a cover letter, let's go ahead, make sure we take the time, build out a very nice cover letter. You can use AI to help you with that. But at the same time, I would encourage you to speak very candidly, and because we can all tell when something's been written by AI. So it can be a wonderful resource again, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we're proofing, editing anything that does come out of that. Analyze job descriptions to land your dream job. So identify required skills and the qualifications. So again, when we're looking at the job descriptions, you can see in that job description what the required skills are. Sometimes you might see preferred skills as well, and then the qualifications. What I usually say is, because I know it's very frustrating for many individuals as you're looking at job descriptions and seeing the laundry list of items that the employers are looking for, and it can be overwhelming. But if you can meet at least, I would say 75% of those qualifications, then go ahead and submit your application. Employers know that they're looking for the sun, the moon, and the stars. And sometimes it is impossible to get all of that, and they're very aware of that. But at the same time, do not count yourself out from applying for a position at all. If even if it's asking for a laundry list of required skills. If there are preferred skills, for example, sometimes you'll see bilingual as a preferred skill. Even if you're not bilingual, go ahead and apply. You never know. Again, it is preferred. It doesn't say required. And oftentimes, if it is preferred, they might look at candidates who have that skill first before they move on to other candidates. But go ahead and apply anyway. You never know if the opportunity could present itself for you to be the next in line. But again, hard skills, soft skills, look at those when you're looking at the job description. If those are skills, obviously, that definitely align with the position that you're interested in, it's probably going to be a good fit for you. And if it's a position that you've never worked in before, or maybe you don't have that background and experience in that specific position, but yet you can bring those skills to the table, again, go ahead and apply for that. Experience level. So that's another, I can have a whole conversation about the experience level, but the experience level, we see entry level, intermediate, we see senior, advanced level, right? And it can vary significantly, even from company to company, job title to job title, even if they're similar job titles within, but different organizations. And so what I'll say is go ahead and apply anyways, even if it says it's an intermediate level, but yet you have most of those skills already. And maybe you've worked other jobs, but you've not worked an entry-level job in that industry. You still might be able to bring the necessary skills to the table. And think about it this way. Sometimes our experience can supplement our educational background or anything else that we're bringing to the table. So if you have 7 to 10 years of experience in one field, one industry, but yet you don't have a degree in cybersecurity, again, sometimes that experience that you have, you never know how far that will actually take you. So again, don't count yourself out just because you don't have every single aspect of what's in that job description. And then understand the company's needs and culture. So I think that that's, super important as you're going into any job interview, researching that company, knowing what their mission is, knowing what their values are, understanding what the culture is based off of the content that you are seeing out there. But when you have that opportunity to talk to a recruiter, when you talk to someone within the company, it also opens a door for you to ask more questions about the company, about the culture of the company, understanding how you might be a fit for that company and the values that they have for the business. So the company values, the job responsibilities. Anytime you're applying to a position, I encourage you, especially if you're looking through LinkedIn, Indeed, whatever site, obviously CareerCircle, but I encourage you to really understand the job responsibilities and not just apply for a position. Don't just go through easy apply because it's a quick way to get applications out there. Take the time to evaluate, understand what the job role is, responsibilities, what experience you bring to the table, and if you'd be a good fit. You will, of course, if you land an interview, have a chance to go back and, prepare yourself properly. But what you don't want to do is just blindly, apply very quickly. And then you land an interview and then you're like, okay, let me pull that job back up. And then you look at the description and you're like, oh, well, I don't have experience here, but, or this isn't something that I'm that interested in. So we don't want those surprises. So really understanding and being knowledgeable of the role up front is what we ideally want to do. And then understand the company's needs, culture, and then their industry keywords. So building in any industry keywords within the resume significantly helps you. Going to their company website, on their LinkedIn page, looking and seeing what their current events are, that sometimes can take you a long way, especially if you land an interview. They might ask you what you know about the company. That gives you an opportunity to open up, and ask questions and talk more about that. But if you really want to impress a recruiter, you want to impress an employer, know some of the things that they're doing out there in the community, know what they're doing in their current events. If they just made a big business transaction, be aware of that. You could bring that up and it will definitely impress them that you've done your research and you are prepared. Optimize your resume with keywords. Again, we talked about that. I did want to let you all know there is a website called Tag Crowd, and that's called Tag Crowd, TAGCROWD.com, tagcrowd.com. And it's a really nice website, gives you the ability. It's kind of similar to AI, I would say, but you can copy and you can paste a job description into Tag Crowd, and it will essentially pull out any keywords for you in like a word cloud. And so you'll have the bigger the words, those are the most common keywords that it's pulling out of that job description. Same thing, you could post that into AI tools and you can, use those as well, but it's another great resource available to you. But again, building in the keywords from the job description into the resume, into a cover letter, if it's asking for a cover letter when you're applying for the position. But if you're not familiar with what an applicant tracking system is, it just kind of breaks it down for you. But it's a software for recruiters and employers to track candidates throughout the recruiting and hiring process. So your resume is essentially going into this bank, and then they're able to house your resume profile there and also pull out the candidates based off of the keywords that they've set in these fields and determine whether or not you may be a good fit for that position. So keyword integration, again, incorporate keywords from the job description into your resume to pass through ATS. And then we want to make sure it has a natural flow. So ensure the keywords fit naturally within the context of your resume. So we do want to make sure we're building them in, but at the same time, we want to make sure that it's a good fit and it's not something that's, oh, well, why is that there, standing out in that way? We want it to be flow very well. Creating your resume prompts. So these are examples. So if I were to say prompt AI, whatever AI tool I wanted to use, write a resume based on this career coach position at CareerCircle and include bullet point achievements that show impact and metrics. So then I'm copying and I'm pasting the job description after prompting it, and then it's going to help you write a resume based off of that job description that you're posting in there for that position. So it will essentially write out the entire resume for you. But once again, we want to make sure you're going in and you're really making it your own afterwards. Share it out with individuals. If you're working with a career coach, share it with them. Ask them for their input, their advice on it as well. Number 2, on creating resume prompts, write a tailored resume for a career coach role at CareerCircle. Include a professional summary, my past 10 years of work experience with 3 to 5 bullet points per role, and incorporate the most important keywords from the job description in those achievements. Another great prompt for you. And again, copy and paste the job description, give it that prompt, and then it's going to help you design a wonderful resume, incorporating your professional summary there, the bullet notes that you need based upon your experience, and then the keywords based off the job description. So great prompt that you can use. Number 3, based on this job description for a career coach role at CareerCircle, write a resume for my past 10 years of work experience with 3 to 5 bullet points per role that includes metrics and the most important 10 keywords from the job description. My past titles and companies were, I'll say mine, Weber International University. No need to include an objective statement. Okay. So at that point, it's going to build out, again, a nice resume based off of your prior roles that you've had. But the big thing with this one is it's going to actually build in metrics showing outcomes based off of the prior roles that you've been in. So you can see from 1 to 2 to 3 how the progression is, and giving it more prompts each time and giving it more detail and being very specific can really make a difference in the content, the output that you're going to get from the AI tool. And you'll have access to this. They'll send it out after. So you'll have these prompts, and that can definitely help you. We talked about this, but tailoring your resume, at least 2 to 3 resumes that are tailored for specific job applications is a good idea. Definitely will help increase your chances of getting noticed by employers and landing the job that you want. And then the content can be pretty similar, but the keywords will vary enough to work well with the ATS. And then AI enables the creation of dynamic resumes and content suggestions based on the industry and the role that you are targeting. We mentioned that already. Tailoring your resume prompt. So tailor my resume to this job description for career coach role at CareerCircle. Number 2, using the resume and job description below showcase 10 relevant skills I should highlight. That one's super helpful. Sometimes I work with people who have no idea what type of skills they should be incorporating on their resume. So utilizing the job description and the pulling out those skills that way with AI, that will definitely help you as you're looking to build in the skills. And then here's my current resume. How would you rewrite it if you were applying to, and then list in job description there? And then the pitfalls of resume writing with AI. So it's important to be specific, as I mentioned already. Include context for the prompt. Try different prompts and mix and match to find what works best for you. All of these are definitely going to help you as you're strategizing on how to use AI, and also what not to do and what to do. And then as a final reflection with AI, your partner in success. So AI is definitely there to help you, and it should be a time saver, but you shouldn't be using it to substitute. Again, always double check and edit any content. Think of AI as a tool for your job search, not a replacement. And then getting closer to the end here, we're having a 2026 Career Kickstart giveaway. So we have partnered CareerCircle with IBM Skills Build. These are steps for you to enter into this, what we're doing, but enroll in and begin an IBM course. So if you haven't enrolled in an IBM course, you have the QR code here. So you can go ahead and get started to do that. And then you want to comment skills using the links posted in the content section. So look under the content section and you can find the information. There's a prize right now giveaway that we're doing, $150 Visa gift card, and also a 30-minute one-on-one recruiter session. So you'll get a chance to meet with a recruiter or a career coach. And then we're going to announce the winner in January 5th via email. So definitely go ahead and take advantage of this opportunity and get signed up for the IBM Skills Build courses. There's a large variety of topics there. There's over 1,000 courses. So I encourage you to take advantage of it. It definitely will help upskill. And that's another thing that you can list on your resume.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. You have done such an exceptional job. Unfortunately, today we do not have time for QA. And so we're going to skip QA for now, but there's a caveat. My amazing colleague is going to put not only myself, but also Stephanie's LinkedIn into the chat. And so please feel free to reach out. Stephanie is absolutely a subject area expert, and she did such an amazing job. Without a break, y'all. Kudos to her. Virtual hand clap for her. So again, going to that next slide. Thank you so much for joining us for today's workshop. I hope you all are leaving here truly feeling empowered to use these tools in your job search. Thank you so much, everyone. Please stay tuned until the end for some important information. So what we really want you to do is to take a few minutes to complete our post-webinar survey, which will be included in the follow-up email. Follow us on social media to stay connected, access additional resources, and learn about upcoming workshops, career fairs, and networking events. Be on the lookout for our 2026 events. They will be announced soon. One last thing, before you go, we're incredibly excited to offer you free access, FREE access to over 1,000 professional development courses, thanks to our new partnership with IBM Skills Build. This is a massive resource to help you upskill or reskill your whole team. Seriously, over 1,000 courses, zero cost, y'all. It's a phenomenal deal. Don't miss out. Head to the link in the content tab now or reference our post-event email to get started. We'll also be sharing a recording, again, of today's webinar along with all resources mentioned in that same follow-up email. Once again, thank you so much for being a part of the CareerCircle community. We look forward to seeing you next time. And thank you so much, Stephanie, for your expertise and giving us all of your greatness and insight. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye-bye.